All right, so we're gonna do a little Cody Bellinger talk, which kind of an interesting situation. So the Cubs, obviously, he opted into his deal, and it came out that the Cubs are looking to trade him. He is on a, what do we want to call it, a 1-and-1 deal? He's technically has 2 years and like $60 million left on his contract. I think he's getting paid $27.5 million this year. If he does decide to opt out after the season, there is a $5 million buyout involved. So there is you're on the hook for at least $32.5 million if you decide to make that trade. It's an interesting situation because there's a guy that obviously he was a kind of down ballot MVP candidate in 2023. It was a guy I was really felt like would have been a great fit for them last season. And I do think he's still a really good fit this coming season. And I don't think you'd have to trade that much for him. I had kind of an idea that I saw somebody post yesterday or a couple days ago, might have been Bo. If you're watching, this is kind of your trade idea. He mentioned trading something like, Taylor Rogers and Lamont Wade Jr. for Cody Bellinger straight up. And a lot of people might look at that and go, why the hell would the Cubs do that? Because, those guys aren't like great players or anything like that. And to me, it's still productive players going back to Chicago. The combined salary for those two is going to be about $16.5 million. And it gives the Cubs an immediate, relief. It kind of cuts their commitment in about half for 2025. And then it completely removes any possible financial obligations in 2026 for the Cubs. So it kind of makes a lot of sense for the Cubs. And it also could make a lot of sense for the Giants just because given his versatility, you're obviously you're upgrading first base tremendously if you're going to play him over Lamont Wade Jr., both defensively and offensively. He also could potentially go out to a corner outfield spot if whenever Bryce comes up or whatever the case may be. It gives you a left-handed bat that the team needs because right now you basically have Yaz and Lee, and do we really have any lefties? We're kind of hoping on Bryce at some point. So you're pretty light on the left-handed hitter side of things right now. And it's only a 2-year commitment, even if he opts in for next year. It's a lot of money. The Giants have money. That's not a problem, especially because you're really only taking on about $15 million for 2025 because you're offloading 2 of those contracts. So it can make a lot of sense. I want to hear your guys' thoughts, but it was just kind of an interesting, trade proposal I saw get floated out.
Yeah, I think Rick and I might defer a little bit on this. But as both of you know, I've wanted Bellinger for the last year or two now. I've been big on him for the exact reasons that you said. One, he's an upgrade, in my opinion, over Yaz in the outfield, if you go that route. 2, he's an upgrade over Lamont at first base, if you put him in that position. Yeah, and like you touched on, the only thing is going to be his contract, but it's really not that bad, especially if you can offload some deals like you touched on, whether it's Wade, whether it's Rogers, whether you end up trading Yaz or something, you want to keep him in the outfield primarily. You have options where you can be flexible, financially speaking this year. And he's versatile, dude. And I just think with his style of play, we all seen his swing. He's very much like a line drive type of hitter. I think he could feast in triples alley, especially with the speed. Then you get the versatility on the bases. I just think he crosses off a lot of boxes that you need. Obviously, he's not that MVP caliber player that he was in the past. So you can't have such high expectations if you go out and acquire him. But I think that he fills a lot of needs right now on multiple sides of the plate, defensively, offensively, speed-wise, runners in scoring position, like Grant just said. He was great, and that's something the Giants lacked in last season. So he fills and checks off a lot of boxes, and I'm all for it. So if you can flip something like a Rogers and a Wade for him, and you're only paying him $15 million this season, and then worry about it next season, I'm all for it.
And Nick, I'll try and check his defensive. I don't know how much he played at first last season. I know he'd played some, but I'll see if I can find that for you.
Yeah. I can tell you right now, he's an upgrade over Wade at first base, without a doubt. Wade is very average, despite what some Giants fans might think defensively. He's gotten a lot better at picking the ball. at first, but his arm is very sketchy when it comes to turning double plays and things of that nature. I don't think he has a ton of range going back on pop-ups. I don't think he has a ton of range going right to left. So I think Belly would definitely be a big upgrade overall over Wade. So where I'm at though in general with Belly is I wasn't as interested in him if he didn't opt into this contract with the Cubs, just because I was worried that it might prevent them from doing other things in free agency because of the dollar amount he would be getting. Now, if you can acquire him via trade and have some offsetting salaries in there, I'm much more in favor of that, because then you're not taking on as much additional money, that you're adding to your payroll. So for me, I personally think Yaz is a little bit better of a fit in a trade with the Cubs, because I know that they still have some interest in Chicago and bringing in Pete Alonso over there. And that's part of why they want to clear some of their payroll. So, and I do know that they were actually showing interest in Yaz prior to the non-tender deadline. So I could see the Cubs being interested in something like that, where, they're taking on a guy that they already like, that can give you good defense and, spot start for you here and there in the outfield. And then you get a pretty solid reliever. I mean, Taylor Rogers' numbers are pretty good. I personally don't think he's worth the dollar amount he's at with his contract, but I do think he's very valuable to a lot of other teams. And I know the Cubs could definitely use the help in the pen. So I would say, something like Yaz and Rogers, and that might do it. The only issue with Yaz is just his dollar amount is $9 million versus Wade being at $4 million. So that would be the only thing for the Cubs. Maybe the Giants say eat $2 million off that contract and try to split the difference there.
Yeah. I think there's a way to make the financials work easily if they wanted to do Yaz instead. Like you said, if they eat a couple of the mil off that deal, they could certainly do it. It's just a matter of what the Cubs would want. And Mike, to this, like, I don't think they're going to get a prospect haul for Cody Bellinger, not at $32.5 million owed in 2025. Like that's the reason why, regardless of what we think as Giants fans about like guys like Taylor Rogers and, not being worth the dollar figure that he's getting, or, Lamont Wade or Mike Yastrzemski or any of these guys that we might have frustrations towards them as players, like they're still productive players. And the Cubs are they're saving a significant amount of money. And like Ricky said, if they're trying to turn around and sign a Pete Alonso type, it makes sense. Like in Wade, obviously they could turn him into a bench player, put him in the outfield and left or right, which isn't that tough at Wrigley unless the wind's just whipping around, which I guess that actually does happen a lot there. So maybe you wouldn't want Wade out there either, but there is a reason like this would make sense for the Cubs. Now, might they get a better offer elsewhere? Yeah, they might. They might get a team that does trade him some low-end prospect and just says, we'll take all the money. We don't care. So,
hey, here's a guy you can throw in any trade package just to sweeten the deal if they want a prospect. Wade Meckler. I would do it.
I do want to see Wade at second base now that they've actually put him there. I do kind of want to see if he can like actually be a functional defender now that they've got him at second.
Functional.
Until he gets a big league pop-up at second and just completely loses it.
Well, he's well practiced in the pop-up dance already.
I thought you were going to say
just as his routes to fly balls.
I thought you were going to say he's well practiced and losing it. I was like, amen, brother.
That too. Dude needs to take the drop goggles off.